Chicago. For years, the Mafia has brought corruption, extortion, and murder to these streets. The mob manipulates local government, the courts, and the police.
They control anything and everything here in the city.
The FBI fights a losing battle against the mob's rule of fear. Their influence is so strong, most mobsters that go to court walk free.
These people are literally getting away with murder.
But when help finally arrives from a completely unexpected source, the feds can finally break the mob's vicious grip on the city. Chicago, America's second city, famous for its soaring skyscrapers and for its vicious underworld. For some time, much of Chicago's crime literally took place under the city. During the mid-19th century, parts of the city were raised on stilts to prevent flooding. Below was a gloomy underworld where Chicago's criminals gathered. During Prohibition in the 1920s, bootleg alcohol is big business. Criminal gangs fight bloody wars to control and profit from it. Mobster Al Capone wipes out the competition, leaving only the Mafia ruling the underworld. His organization is known as the Outfit. Over the next 30 years, the Outfit increases their control of all illegal activity in the city. No sizable crime takes place on their turf without their permission. April 26, 1962. Two young thieves, Billy McCarthy and Jimmy Maraglia, are on the move. They're following the Scalvo brothers. The brothers are connected to the mob. McCarthy and Maraglia had a fight with them and got badly beaten. Now they want revenge. Frank Culata is a friend of theirs.
We were crooks, and we hung together, and we robbed together, in plain English. And one night, Billy and Jimmy were telling me that they wanted to whack these two brothers, and I was supposed to go along with them. And the night that they picked out to do it, I was bowling with some girl.
Culata says he stays behind. McCarthy and Maraglia follow the Scalvos into a mob-controlled neighborhood. When the brothers pull up, McCarthy and Maraglia empty their guns into the car. McCarthy and Maraglia have made a big mistake. They have killed two syndicate associates. When the Outfit hears of the murders, they send crew member Tony Spilatro to talk to Frank Culata. They are old friends.
So he met me at a bowling alley, and it was quite obvious that everybody knew it was Billy and Jimmy. And he said, listen, he said, I got to tell you the truth. They think you were there. And he said, they're going to whack you and Billy and Jimmy, so you need to tell me, because I could get you out of this. So I told him the truth, you know, what happened.
Spilatro promises to protect Culata if he gets the two killers to a location where the mob can grab them. Culata arranges to meet McCarthy at a fast food restaurant on North Avenue. There, Spilatro and his crew grab McCarthy and drive him out to Cicero, a Mafia-controlled suburb.
Well, they take them in a basement. Usually you go down in a sub-level basement, you know, where it's a little quieter down there and noises can't be heard. Then he told me that they tortured Billy.
Spilatro goes to work on him with an ice pick. He wants to know who else was with him when he killed the Scalvos.
And Billy wouldn't come up with anything, so finally they stuck his head in the vise. And they started tightening it, and his eyeball popped out. And he told them that Jimmy was there, only Jimmy. And then they cut his throat.
Spilatro believes McCarthy's story. A few days later, the outfit picks up Jimmy. He's beaten and killed. Billy McCarthy and Jimmy Miraglia are left in the trunk of a car in the south of the city. The McCarthy and Miraglia murders send a clear message to the Chicago underworld. Step out of line with the Mafia, and you'll pay with your life. The executions also show the mob's utter contempt for the law. Chicago's law enforcement must try to regain control of the city. The outfit is run like a corporation. Its chairman is Tony Accardo, a veteran of the Capone era. He is known as Joe Batters for his talent at cracking skulls with a baseball bat.
He was an animal. He had been responsible for an awful lot of murders.
Below Accardo as chief executive is Mafia boss Sam Giancana. First accused of murder as a teenager, he then became a hitman for the mob.
He was a man's man. In other words, you looked up to him, you respected him. You know, he'd get in there and fight with you.
Under Giancana, there's a board of 5 directors who operate their own scams and share the profits with the outfit's leaders. Each director controls a part of the city with a crew. The directors are known as made men, meaning that they share in the profits of the whole outfit. To become a made man, they must swear an oath of allegiance and silence.
And of course, once you're a made member, you are always a made member, and you do not leave alive.
The director of the Grand Avenue crew is Joey the Clown Lombardo, a mob killer who specializes in loan sharking and extortion.
This was Joe's territory. He was a clown, you know, funny guy, always made jokes, but he had like a hair trigger. You don't know. You couldn't play back with him. It was like a one-way street, you know. He was making the jokes and you were the brunt of his jokes.
Lombardo trades on fear and intimidation. He runs a vicious loan sharking operation, lending money at exorbitant interest rates. Many borrowers are habitual gamblers who will never repay the loan and struggle to pay the interest. Late payers are severely punished. With brutal operatives like Lombardo making money for them, by the 1960s, the outfit is reportedly raking in over $1 billion from skimming casino profits, loan sharking, extortion, gambling, and pornography. When Red Womet sets up a porn shop in a mob-controlled neighborhood, he has to pay them protection money, whether he makes a profit or not.
And the deal was 50% of the back room, the peep shows. At that time, $1,000 was coming in a week, and we agreed upon $500. He said, I don't care how much more you make, we made the deal. He said, if you would have been bust, I'd have still been looking for that money, whether you had it or not.
With all his wealth and power, outfit boss Sam Giancana gets a taste for the high life. He parties with celebrities like Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe. He also meets the young Senator John F. Kennedy and tries to gain influence with the government. The mob's secretive chairman, Tony Accardo, disapproves of Giancana's glamorous lifestyle. Equally, the Kennedys don't like being associated with the mob. Americans are sickened by the blatant disregard of the law. John Drummond has spent 40 years reporting on the Chicago outfit.
The general feeling of the public in Chicago after the war, and the immediate decade or two afterwards, that the syndicate could get away with murder, that they were pretty untouchable, so to speak.
In the early 1960s, Attorney General Robert Kennedy launches a nationwide attack on the Mafia.
The rackets have become too widespread, too well organized, and too rich. It is my firm belief that new laws are needed to give the Federal Bureau of Investigation increased jurisdiction to assist local authorities.
The FBI is tasked with gathering evidence against the mob.
To get convictions in these organized crime cases, it takes a lot of work. There are bugs on people's offices. bugs on their phones, bugs in their cars, plus people wearing wires.
The electronic surveillance gives the feds valuable information, but it's inadmissible in court. The feds can only harass mob boss Giancana with close and constant surveillance. In 1965, Giancana is ordered to testify before a federal grand jury. He refuses and is jailed for a year. Upon his release, outfit chairman Tony Accardo tells Giancana it's time he stepped down. His high profile attracts too much attention.
Sam Giancana's lifestyle, his flamboyant lifestyle, didn't sit well with Accardo. He was bringing heat on the organization by himself.
Rather than wait for a retirement bullet, Giancana goes into exile in Mexico. Accardo takes over Giancana's role as chief executive. He's an astute leader who keeps a low profile and ensures that the outfit's criminal activities can't be traced back to him.
Accardo would never speak to someone else down the line. He would send one of his henchmen to send another henchman to do something. I mean, it would be 3 times removed, so he would protect himself.
Even when he was forced to testify before a Senate Committee on Organized Crime, Accardo hid behind the Fifth Amendment.
I respectfully decline to answer because I honestly believe my answer might tend to incriminate me.
I ask you again.
Under Accardo's leadership, the outfit's power grows and its influence spreads into every part of city life. The mob now rules the streets with impunity, even when caught red-handed. November 10th, 1964. Cook County Police Sergeant John Flood is driving past the Crossroads Motel when he sees something suspicious. There's a man creeping through the shadows.
He had a steel pipe, just didn't look right. And then I looked and I saw a woman and a man in a car, maybe about 25 yards from me.
Flood pulls over.
This man started walking toward me, and I told him, produce some identification.
The man with the pipe is Frank the German Schwiess, reputedly a feared outfit hitman.
I knew him for 20 years. He was the most ruthless man I've ever met in my entire life.
But Schwiess is not alone. His getaway driver now tries to run Sergeant Flood down.
And I heard the roar of the engine and turned to shoot, split second. I hit Schwiess first. Turned to shoot, and I didn't, but I got Schwiess, and the other guy had run away, and I wanted to get after him.
But the man Schwiess was sent to kill has disappeared. There is no evidence to hold Schwiess, so he walks. The feds must regain control of the city. In the late 1960s and early 70s, Washington finally provides them with the weapons to do so. The Crime Control and Safe Streets Acts allows evidence from wiretaps to be admitted in court. The RICO Act makes it easier to prosecute organized crime figures. And the Witness Protection Program provides witnesses with security against mob retribution. But when the feds do get informants brave enough to come forward, the courts seem unable to convict. Most mobsters who appear in court are acquitted. The outfit's influence reaches far deeper than the feds realize. Since the days of Al Capone, the Mafia gets away with racketeering, extortion, and murder. The FBI can't convict them, and no one dares to speak out against the mob. Then a new law is passed to protect witnesses. Now the feds just need an insider to testify. In 1973, the FBI gets a break. Outfit hitman Chuck Grimaldi is accused of murder. The feds offer him immunity in exchange for information. Grimaldi tells them of the murder of a mob loan collector by 2 outfit hitmen, Tony Spilotro and Mad Sam DiStefano. Both are indicted.
Sam was dangerous. I mean, he was just totally insane. I mean, Sam was dangerous. I mean, he was just totally insane. I mean, do things that were absolutely ridiculous. He believed in satanic worship. He frothed at the mouth when he'd go into a rage.
Mad Sam defends himself. Speaking through a bullhorn, he turns the pretrial hearing into a circus. For the camera-shy outfit, Mad Sam's antics are positively dangerous. If there's one thing that sends hardened mobsters scurrying for the shadows, it's publicity.
That's kind of the way Sam was. And he had to be eliminated.
On April 14, 1973, two outfit hitmen silence Mad Sam. For good. The mob will kill even its own to stay out of the spotlight. To the FBI's surprise, the trial judge acquits mob killer Tony Spilatro. It's a bitter blow for the feds, but they persevere in their search for informers. It's their best chance to get the Mafia. Then, in early 1974, street crew boss Joey the Clown Lombardo is indicted for embezzling $1.4 million from the Teamsters Union pension fund. Lombardo is awaiting trial, but the feds need more evidence to convict him. A small businessman steps forward. His name is Daniel Seifert. Seifert is a legitimate entrepreneur who naively went into business with the mob.
My husband, Daniel Seifert, was looking to start a fiberglass business. Mr. Lombardo said that he would lend him the money. The business went fine for a few years until Daniel started realizing that they were laundering money through the business.
Lombardo's stolen money buys goods and services from suppliers to produce Seifert's fiberglass. When the fiberglass is sold, Lombardo takes his now clean money out of the profits.
Joey was washing the money through there, and Seifert didn't want to go to prison. He was going to roll. He was going to become a government witness.
The outfit gets wind of Seifert's decision. Friday, September 27, 1974. The Seiferts go to work as usual.
Our youngest one, who was 4 at the time, Joseph, decided that he didn't feel good that day, so he wanted to go to work with Mom and Dad.
Daniel Seifert is outside when the mob pays them a visit. Even though they wear masks, Mrs. Seifert thinks she recognizes one of the gunmen.
We heard a gunshot, and the minute I heard the gunshot, the man that was standing with the gun at my head left my side, and he said, "Stay there and don't move." So I waited. I couldn't tell you how many seconds it was.
Then Mrs. Seifert goes outside.
There was a man in the middle of the driveway holding a sawed-off shotgun. And my husband was at the other end of the parking lot. Injured as badly as he was, that was the last time I saw him.
The last memory little Joe Seifert has of his father is of him lying dead in the parking lot.
I remember seeing my dad laying there as we were driving by. That scene's, definitely stayed with me my whole life.
Mrs. Seifert recognizes Lombardo, but does not tell the police. She has 3 young children and is terrified of what the mob might do if she talks.
All the defendants walked. And I recall watching these men come by with a grin on their face like the cat had swallowed the canary. And that stuck in the craw of the federal government for years and years.
On July 18, 1974, the feds get yet another opportunity to strike at the mob. Ex-outfit boss Sam Giancana is extradited from Mexico in order to testify regarding Mafia involvement in CIA plots to kill Cuban leader Fidel Castro. Giancana wants his old job back as boss. The feds are afraid current mob boss Accardo might want to kill Giancana. He's a valuable witness. They keep him under surveillance for nearly a year. June 18, 1975. Giancana is preparing his favorite dinner of sausages and beans. Suddenly, unbeknownst to Giancana, the police protection around the house evaporates.
I had asked a captain in Chicago PD, and he said, we got a phone call from the police. It said, pull everybody off right now.
A mysterious gunman enters the house and assassinates Giancana. He puts 7 bullets into his head. The outfit has silenced its former boss. No one knows why the security detail was called off, and no one is convicted of the murder. In the late 1970s, a case is brought against a mob hitman that could finally result in a murder conviction. Harry the Hook Ailman is indicted for the killing of Teamsters steward William Logan. This time, the feds have 2 eyewitnesses.
A man named Bobby Lowell, who testified that he saw the actual shooting happen, saw Harry Ailman kill this fellow Logan. They also had as a witness in that case the driver of the car, of the getaway car, the hit car that night. He also testified.
The Chicago mob needs a good lawyer to get Ailman off. They turn to attorney Bob Cooley.
I got a reputation almost immediately as being somebody who not only knew the right people and had the right connections in the system, but somebody who could get something done.
Cooley craves success. And working for the mob, he gets the kind of wealth and privilege his family never had.
I came from a poor background, from a poor family. My father was an honest policeman who never went further than detective because he was ultra honest.
Winning the case will cement Cooley's reputation with the Mafia. He puts his neck on the line and assures the outfit he will get Ailman acquitted.
It was so important to these people to make sure he was found not guilty because, again, that's what it keeps everybody else in line, knowing that this is the power structure that can protect you.
But for Cooley, there is no protection if Ailman is convicted.
I was ready to leave town if that happened because I knew what would have happened to me had I not succeeded in what I agreed to do. Well, I would have been killed, no question about it.
Cooley gambles on the direct approach. He meets with trial judge Frank Wilson.
I agreed to pay him $10,000 to handle the case. He was a nervous wreck, as was I. I was afraid that he was going to find him guilty. I really felt he might.
Cooley's gamble pays off.
Lo and behold, the judge stunned everybody when he ruled and acquitted Harry Ailman, feeling that Lowe's testimony was not strong enough, etc., not credible.
The unexpected acquittal of Harry Ailman causes a public uproar.
There was outrage. The citizens felt, look, the only way you're going to get convictions on these guys is Uncle Sam. The FBI, the IRS, they've got to be involved. The Justice Department. It's obviously not going to happen in the civil courts.
The outfit's influence on the courts has been exposed. But the mob will continue to rule the streets unless the feds can break its grip on the judiciary. Ailman's acquittal makes Bob Cooley a star with the outfit. Other gangsters flock to him. He will do whatever's necessary to get his clients acquitted.
If it took money, if it took ingenuity, I had all kinds of scams and schemes to get my clients to walk. It became like an ego thing with me.
Cooley becomes very successful, making the kind of money he could only dream of while growing up. He spends thousands of dollars gambling.
It was like a dream world. I mean, get up when you want, do whatever you want, whenever you want, always have a pocket full of money. There's nothing that you couldn't do. It was a fabulous life. I loved it.
But Cooley's dream world will crumble when a crusading judge exposes the corruption in Chicago's courts. The FBI is losing the battle against the Chicago Mafia. Its corrupt lawyers and judges ensure indicted mobsters get acquitted. The city is under mob rule. Chicago is divided into 50 administrative wards. They are run by aldermen, who hand out municipal jobs and contracts. The money to bribe the judge who acquitted Harry Ailman of murder comes from the wealthiest and most powerful of these precincts, the First Ward, run by Alderman Fred Rote. The real power in the First Ward lies with its secretary, a man by the name of Pasqualino Marconi, better known as Pat Marcy. Marcy's ties to the mob go back a long way. He and Tony Accardo both worked for Al Capone.
Pat Marcy was a gunman with the original Capone mob. He became the head of the First Ward. The First Ward controlled everything. We're talking from the governor on down.
Pat Marcy and crooked alderman Fred Rote hold court in the Counselor's Row restaurant. The mob's star attorney, Bob Cooley, is a regular at their table.
Once I became a part of the First Ward inner circle, I was able to help friends become judges, was able to help my family do a lot of things. I mean, it's hard to explain how powerful that they actually were, but there was really nothing that they couldn't do.
In the restaurant, Marcy and Rote hand out government jobs and contracts, from which they take a cut.
Here's a known made member of the mob, Pat Marcy, and you had all these state and federal judges who would come over and pay homage to Pat. If you wanted to be a judge, there was a price tag.
Through Pat Marcy, the Chicago Mafia controls the city's political fate. Marcy pays underprivileged communities not to vote. In 1979, Cooley witnesses the extent of the outfit's power when the new chief of police, Joe DiLeonardi, launches a crackdown on crime and corruption. Fred Rote gives Chicago Mayor Jane Byrne an ultimatum. Remove DiLeonardi, or we shut down the city. Because of Marcy, the syndicate controls the city services that keep the city running. The mayor has no choice. DiLeonardi is replaced. It's an astonishing display of the mob's power. Crooked politicians, judges, and police officers are on the outfit's payroll. The feds cannot convict any of them without first breaking the mob's influence in the courts. But the judiciary will not inform on each other until one honest judge decides to make a stand. Brockton Lockwood is a judge from Southern Illinois. He's sickened by the corruption he finds in Chicago's courts.
Once I found out that people were paying certain judges, maybe 10% of the judges were just outright crooks, pay guys. Once I found that out, I thought, well, I am not going to work in this system. But before I quit, I'm going to disclose this to somebody.
In early 1981, Judge Lockwood calls the Justice Department in Washington, who persuade him to stay on and help them fight the outfit.
They basically said, if you will verify this for us, we'll do something about it. I said, all right, I'll do that. How do I do it? They said, you wear a wire.
Wearing a tape recorder inside his boot, the judge starts gathering damning evidence against Chicago's corrupt judiciary.
When I put the device on, it scared me to death. This recorder is so heavy that it's like dragging a ball and chain, and it's flopping around so that I had to tape it to my leg very tightly because the blood vessels to break in my foot.
But the crusading judge perseveres, pretending to be as corrupt as the crooked lawman he meets.
So I went out and recorded assistant city attorneys, policemen, deputies, bagmen telling me about transactions that they had either done or were about to do. All the setups for the Máfia on cases they were interested in.
After 3 long years, the feds have gathered enough evidence to draw in the net. The operation, codenamed Greylord, indicts 92 people, including 17 judges, 48 lawyers, 10 deputy sheriffs, and 1 state legislator.
When Greylord is done with, the Cook County courts will be stronger, they'll be more efficient, they'll be more effective,
But Operation Greylord doesn't touch the Chicago mob's power base, run by Pat Marcy. He's tipped off before the investigation begins, and the indicted judiciary does not incriminate him.
Not a single member from the inner circle of the First Ward got indicted. And all Greylord did was put more money in Pat Marcy's pocket, because every judge that got indicted, a new judge had to come in, and that's where they would pay to get in there.
But Operation Greylord did change one man's life forever, Bob Cooley's.
When Greylord broke out, that was a breakout for me too, where I stopped fixing cases. I stopped paying people off.
Cooley's time in the First Ward inner circle opens his eyes to the outfit's endless brutality. When he's asked to fix a case for a mob associate who killed an innocent man, he refuses.
They were just a lot of evil people. They had beaten a black guy to death in the L tracks, and they said, it's only what's the big deal? And that was like one of those turning points where it just, for whatever reason, really got me angry. Now I just want nothing more to do with these people.
Cooley decides to quit, but no one leaves the mob.
They destroyed other people who didn't do what they were told, and now they're going to kill me.
Cooley decides to take the biggest gamble of his life. He will fight the mob. By the mid-1980s, Mafia attorney Bob Cooley can no longer endure the mob's relentless brutality. But if he leaves, they will kill him. Cooley decides to attack the outfit. His closest target is their political fixer, Pat Marcy. Without him, the mob has little protection from the law. On Saturday, March 8, 1986, Cooley goes to see the FBI.
I went to the FBI strike force, the organized crime strike force, and I said, look, I'd like to maybe help try to clean up the court system.
March 20th, 1986. In a hotel room 15 miles outside the city, the feds record Cooley's story. He explains how Secretary Pat Marcy, a made member of the Mafia, controls Chicago's judges, politicians, and police force. The feds think he must have a death wish.
They said, are you okay? Are you sick? And I said, no, I'm not sick. Well, why do you want to do this? And I said, it's just something that I want to do.
But Marcy is such a powerful public figure that the feds don't believe Cooley's story. In desperation, he offers to wear a wire.
Even as I left the building, I'm starting to think to myself, I committed suicide. I have no idea if I have signed my own death warrant as I walked out of there.
Wearing a small tape recorder strapped to his back, Cooley starts gathering evidence against Pat Marcy.
I wired him up dozens and dozens of times to send him to meetings with organized crime people.
The operation is codenamed Gambit, short for Gambling Attorney, a reference to Cooley's taste for gambling and to the risk he's taking. If found out, he would be savagely tortured and killed. Over the next 3 years, Cooley doggedly gathers evidence against crooked judges and politicians in the outfit's pay. June 5th, 1989. Cooley meets Fred Rotee to discuss a legal matter. Cooley's brother, a real estate lawyer, requires a zoning change in the First Ward, Marcy's territory.
We sat down and he said, well, what's this all about? And I said, well, look, these people want to build, they want to do some renovation of some buildings, they wanted this and they wanted that, how big a project? I said, I think it's $1 million, $1.5 million, something like that.
Just then, Marcy walks in.
Pat Marcy right away takes over. What's this all about? How big is it? And who's the builder? And they know the rules. They know they've got to pay. And I said, well, Pat, I just want to know how much.
Marcy wants $7,500 for himself and Rotee.
I wanted to put money in both of their hands, just to make it even a bigger case.
Cooley records both men asking for and receiving their payoff. Enough proof to convict them. He now goes after other corrupt members of Marcy's inner circle. Wearing the wire, He meets with Marcy to discuss a bribe for a crooked judge. To avoid being overheard, the two men step outside.
When we go to walk in, being the gentleman that Pat is, he goes to escort me in and puts his hand right on the wire. Right on the wire.
Cooley's mind is racing as they reach the table.
He sat down and I stood there and I started complaining about my back. I stood there and I said, oh man. I said, I said, I've got this brace. I said, I got this brace, but it's not helping any. My back is killing me. I'm not gonna, I wanted to get out of there. And I just said, I'm going to, I gotta go, Pat. I'm gonna go see my doctor or whatever. And I left.
Marcy believes him. Cooley presses on, recording conversations with First Ward regulars. Finally, he collects enough evidence to potentially destroy the outfit's treacherous politicians. Cooley's job is done and disappears into the witness protection program.
I left town in November of '89. There wasn't a single mob killing for almost 9 years afterwards. They didn't all suddenly just decide to stop killing. They realized they couldn't get away with it.
October 19, 1990. Operation Gambit blows apart the outfit's power base in the First Ward. Judges, lawyers, and politicians are found guilty. Among them is the mob's master fixer, Pat Marcy. He's indicted for conspiracy, racketeering, bribery, and extortion. He suffers a heart attack during the trial and later dies. Alderman Fred Rotee is jailed for 4 years for conspiracy, bribery, and racketeering. Judge Wilson, who accepted a bribe to acquit Harry Ailman of murder 12 years earlier, cannot face being ruined by his ties to the mob. He commits suicide. But Cooley isn't finished yet. From his witness protection hideaway, he persuades the state attorney to re-examine the application of the double jeopardy rule and retry Harry Ailman.
Under the law, we have a right to go forward and prosecute this case a second time because the first trial, due to the bribery, was a sham and that Mr. Alleman was never in jeopardy.
Ailman becomes the first man in American history ever to be retried for murder. He is found guilty and sentenced to a staggering 100 to 300 years in prison. Following Cooley's undercover work, the corrupt First Ward is exposed, and the court system is reformed to change the way judges are appointed. For the feds, it's a major victory against the mob.
I'm very proud of the work Bob did. He did a fabulous job. He probably was one of the best in producing information that the Chicago FBI office has had.
For the first time since the jailing of Al Capone in 1932, the outfit suffers a major defeat. Operation Gambit breaks the mob's links to Chicago's government, law enforcement, and judiciary. But it fails to tie the corruption directly to the Mafia leadership, and the feds cannot touch them. But then, a surprising and unexpected letter arrives from a federal prison. By 1990, the FBI exposes the Mafia's corrupt influence on Chicago's legal and political institutions. But the outfit's leaders escape indictment. The feds must find a way to bring them down. In 1992, the outfit's top boss, Tony Accardo, dies. It's rumored that former crew boss Joey the Clown Lombardo takes his place. The outfit's style starts to change. Violent street crews draw too much attention. And the recent indictments and legalized riverboat gambling have battered the mob and its profits. A new generation of mobsters with university degrees begins to operate with greater sophistication.
They put their money where they can hide it, and so they own construction companies, trucking companies, bars, restaurants, waste hauling companies, and they're not as obvious as they were.
But the Mafia has not abandoned its core businesses.
If a human being wants to buy a prostitute or drugs or wants a bookmaker or wants a juice loan, it's still going to be available in Chicago. They're going to provide those vices.
The outfit still makes about $100 million a year from people's weaknesses. The federal authorities must put an end to this ruthless exploitation. That means jailing the syndicate's leaders. But these shadowy figures are never linked to any crime, which makes it impossible for the feds to convict them, until they get help from a totally unexpected quarter. On August 18, 1998, FBI agent Tom Bourgeois receives a surprising letter. It's from a jailed mobster, Frank Calabresi Jr. He tells Bourgeois, "I want to help you and the government. Nobody, not even my lawyers, know I'm sending you this letter. It's better that way, for my safety."
Well, when we got the letter, we went to see him, and he spoke to us, gave us information in regards to specific types of crimes that we were interested in.
Frank, his father, and his uncle are in jail for loan sharking and extortion. He's prepared to disclose dark family secrets in exchange for a reduced sentence. He tells the feds about a murder planned by his father and carried out by his uncle, Nick Calabresi. The victim is mobster John Feckerata. September 14, 1986. Nick Calabresi goes for a drive with Feckerata. Calabresi shoots Feckerata in the head, but only wounds him. Feckerata tries to escape his execution. Calabresi has to finish the job in the street.
When he kills him, he is wearing rubber gloves, and Nick pulls off the rubber gloves and throws them by a dumpster as he's leaving.
The cops find the gloves and store them. DNA technology is not available yet. May 1999. Acting on Frank Jr.'s tips, the feds pay Nick Calabresi a visit in jail. The feds have a warrant to take a DNA sample. If it proves he is the killer, he could spend the rest of his life in jail.
He was very scared. If the mob knew that we knew he was the murderer in a mob hit, he's got a real dilemma. He's between a rock and a hard place. He's either going to help us or they're going to kill him.
Nick Calabresi turns informant. He's the first made member of the Mafia to do so. His revelations are sensational.
He was a treasure trove of information about the mob. He discussed being involved personally with numerous murders.
Finally, the feds have what they've needed for decades, an insider's testimony that will destroy the outfit's leaders. They launch Operation Family Secrets. Red Ouimet is a key witness in the investigation. He began working for the outfit in the late 1960s. After only 3 years, he couldn't take the sadistic violence any longer.
They took advantage of people that couldn't defend themselves. They never went after somebody that was going to hurt them.
Ouimet becomes an FBI informant. For 18 years, he leads a dangerous double life, secretly recording Mafia conversations. His evidence can put some of the most notorious outfit killers away for life. He is currently in the Witness Protection Program. In April 2005, after a 7-year investigation, Operation Family Secrets smashes the mob's leadership. 14 of its highest-ranking bosses are indicted. Among them, Chairman Joey the Clown Lombardo. The defendants are all men who have committed brutal crimes for the outfit. They are indicted for 18 murders going back nearly 40 years, including the 1974 murder of federal witness Daniel Seifert. On September 27, 2007, Lombardo is convicted of killing Seifert. He faces spending life in prison. The family secrets convictions decimate the Chicago Mafia leadership, but it isn't dead.
I don't believe that those of us who worked organized crime for years and years and years would ever state that we have eliminated anything.
Mobsters may still walk the streets of the city, but their grip on its institutions is broken. The outfit is a pale reflection of what it once was. The people of Chicago and its law enforcement have reclaimed their city. They must now hold on to it.